All right, good morning. Thank you for joining us in the Facebook Fox 26 After Show, or if you're streaming on our app, thank you for tuning in. We've been taking a look at the devastation left behind from what we now know was at least an EF2 tornado that dropped off here in Deer Park yesterday around 3 p.m., shortly before 3 p.m. That's when it came to this area. We've been here all morning since 4 a.m. getting a look at how residents are picking up the pieces. We didn't start really seeing a whole lot of cleanup until the sun came out, so you can see some construction crews working in the background at this insurance building here off of Center Street. This is a part of Center Street that has been blocked all morning. They had about 30 road closures here in Deer Park yesterday, but they've been able to reopen much of this area. However, this part of this main thoroughfare, I'll call it, has remained blocked off because, as you can see, there's still lots of debris from where this tornado touched down. Also, downed power lines still leaning onto the street. We took a look at down power line earlier, just a few blocks away. And what's interesting about the damage here is, it just blows my mind every time after a tornado, how you see, one spot that's still intact and then, just a block down or so, another building completely devastated. I don't know if Ed, are you able to zoom into that apartment building? We were over there taking a look at that damage earlier. Just another spot where you could see where the tornado touched down, and the apartment building has one of the units just, that half of the unit really torn off and exposing the inside. And you may not be able to see it here, but, a unit on the other end of that stairwell looks completely fine. So, we've been out looking at all the damage, also keeping an eye on the power out here. That's been a major issue. The mayor of Deer Park even mentioned that was going to be the main problem since that tornado touchdown for the next 24 hours, trying to restore the power. We spoke with some residents who chose to stay in their homes last night because they didn't sustain too much damage. They lost an outer storage shed that they had, but their home was pretty much intact, but without power. They said it felt about 30 degrees last night. They were freezing in there. But another issue that they said that has popped up in the aftermath of this storm is people looting. They've seen people grabbing things out of front yards. So neighbors have been helping neighbors trying to secure their belongings and all this. But it's, hard to imagine that after having lived through this, being grateful that you made it out and still having to deal with some people doing some madness. So we've got quite the team that's been covering this area. And for After Show, we have Lena Maria out in. Are you in the Weather Center, Lena?
Sitting at the desk, Chelsea.
Okay.
It's great that you're showing all those visuals because we always talk about, being in your interior-most room away from windows and doors, and you can see some of the damage to those structures where that clearly is the safest place to be. But you're right, tornadoes are very erratic, and all the National Weather Service teams are out doing these storm damage surveys, and that's some of the things that they look for, because sometimes a tornado can touch down, it can lift, it can come back down, and being able to see kind of the movement of the damage. Straight line damaging winds will knock over trees differently and will likely damage all buildings versus a tornado might, as mentioned, move a little bit more and avoid one structure while it hits the other. Awful news, especially about the looting, right? Getting kicked when you're down. So hopefully that remains minimal, and I do hope everyone's doing okay. The good news is we've got a couple days of really quiet weather, for people to be able to kind of pick up the pieces. Unfortunately, we do have some rain moving in over the weekend, but at least today, tomorrow, Friday will be quiet, Chelsea, so that all that work will be able to be done, and hopefully people can get tarps on the roof. Of course, this is always a long recovery process. It doesn't happen overnight, but I'm certainly thinking of everyone who did sustain damage, and shout out to you guys. Everyone did such a great job with the coverage yesterday, keeping everybody informed.
Yeah. That's what we do, trying to keep everybody posted during the storm, and then afterwards, of course, showing you what's been left behind, what people need to know as far as, getting shelter and some steps in trying to get things back in order. So we've seen some, insurance adjusters out here and all that. And we were at one of the churches, St. Hyacinth Catholic Church. I was able to speak with the building manager there. He actually was at the church and waited out the storm. So he described it as very loud. We get that description of a freight train. A lot of people hearing that sound when a tornado comes through. So he said it was very loud, that the rain was going sideways. So he took cover, and thankfully, he was okay. Once he was able to step out, he found that the other people in other parts of that church were fine. But the church got hit hard, really hard, actually. The roof was torn off, thrown yards away into a field. Part of it was dropped right there. But what's so crazy about it is that you had other parts of the church. He said part of it was renovated about a year ago when they went back into the church after renovations. That part of the church, amazingly, was still intact. It was untouched. Then you had little things like the Jesus statue in the yard that still there, not even moved. So, just like you said, just kind of erratic. You don't know what's going to get hit, what's going to get toppled over or torn up. And then you have little things like that, little miracles.
Right.
But the main miracle here is that everybody was okay. We've heard about one injury in the Pasadena area, I believe. But as far as Deer Park, we haven't heard about any injuries out here, and everybody's just, trying to pitch in and help out, check on neighbors. One of the cell phone towers was down yesterday, and I think maybe this morning or late last night they did put up some service. But talking to that building manager, that was one of the issues, because nobody was sure. If you weren't in a room with somebody, you may not have been sure if they were okay. So that's the other thing that we've seen people doing out here, stopping by their neighbors' homes, making sure that they are okay, seeing if they needed anything. Luckily enough, some of the businesses are open. Some will be indefinitely closed because of the damage. But some of them, for example, I pointed out the CVS, it had lights on and everything. And then, a few blocks away, the Walgreens, the whole front of the building torn off. So, it's hit or miss out here, but it seems like the residents have been doing pretty well, just kind of taking it in and trying to decide where to go from here. And do we have Ruben? I want to bring in Ruben because he's been in Pasadena all morning, other area that was hit very hard. What have you been seeing, Ruben?
We are out here at the Pasadena Animal Shelter on Burke, and if you were watching our coverage yesterday on Fox 26, you know that this was one of the first areas that we saw actually the damage. We started seeing some pictures, and then when we got our crews out here, we got a really good look at at the extent of the damage here at the Pasadena Animal Shelter on Burke. So as far as the building goes, roof just torn off of the place and debris all over the front of the building, and yesterday was into the street. When we arrived here about 3:30 this morning, the police had the road. The road was still closed. There's a concern about the power lines a little bit further down the block there. We see some crews starting to take a look at possibly starting to work on that, and they look like they've just arrived because I hadn't noticed them earlier. So what happened to the animals here? Well, luckily, because of the volunteers, because of the quick reaction from the community and some of the local pet rescue groups, they have been able to transport and find some shelter for these animals, except for a handful that are still here at the Pet Adoption Center. Now, I have to let everybody know the Pet Adoption Center is closed today. There is no power for blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks in every direction out here. They're using a little generator to power some of the things they need in there right now. But as far as the animals, again, almost all of them have been put into some kind of shelter. If you want to help, you have to go check out the Pasadena Animal Shelter Facebook page. They're posting updates. They desperately need foster homes. And of course, they need donations. So as far as this building goes, it's going to be a very, very long time until they can get this repaired and structurally able to handle having volunteers and animals back in here. So if there's anything, that you can do to help, it would be greatly appreciated. And Yeah, pretty much that's the case. You know, we've seen a lot of the devastation in certain parts here of the Pasadena area, but again, the best part of it is we have not heard any reports yet that there were any fatalities as this tornado ripped through this area. So that's definitely the silver lining in all of this, guys. So, but as far as this facility goes, they're going to need a lot of help getting back on their feet.
All right. Well, thank you for being out there, Ruben, and spreading the word about that. It is amazing to see people stepping up. You know, Houstonians in our area tend to step up and help places like that out. So so good to hear. Thank you for bringing that to us. We just moments ago, I want to show y'all Center Street because this has been blocked off since the tornado hit yesterday, some of the worst damage, and they just reopened it. So good to see some parts of this area getting back to normal. We'll be keeping an eye on, the power outages as crews have been out since overnight. Actually, they worked overnight. We saw them early here. We've been out here since 4 a.m. So we've seen them out in the streets getting power back to the residents and the businesses here. So yeah, we'll keep you guys posted on that. You make sure that you follow our Facebook and keep posted on the app for any updates. Ed and I were going to head to another press conference at the police station here and kind of see what they have to tell us. And I know the National Weather Service is out here as well, continuing to assess the damage. So we'll bring you the updates as we get them. But thanks again for you guys tuning in and paying attention to Fox 26 for all your updates.
That's why, in my view, he is on his own legal island of potential criminal liability right now. Whether or not that results in anything in terms of an indictment remains to be seen. But that is the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do. That's Donald Trump's problem.
When you talk about turning over those classified materials like Pence did and like Biden did, when you're talking about a penalty, is there any sort of, I guess, leniency if you are turning them in versus those documents being found somewhere like your home, for instance?
Sure. So when it comes to the return of these records, government obviously wants to look for evidence that it was just an inadvertent mistake. There will obviously be that.